Welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. I'm Stuart Wellborn, a British author and former therapist, and each week I sit down with Wa-Na-Nee-Che, a spiritual elder from Turtle Island, to explore the deeper truths behind healing, ceremony, and connection to Source. Hello, viewers and listeners. We have two guests tonight. We have Wa-Na-Nee-Che and his son. I'm going to let them lead this one, and I will just ask questions for clarification. Maybe if you're watching, you can work out which one's the father and which one's the son.
Thanks.
Okay, how are you, Wa-Na-Nee-Che, and how are you, Matthew, today?
Doing good. Pretty
Fine.
busy morning so far for both of us. Been doing a lot errand running, so like I had to go to the bank and that my father's going to get a new car, so that's
Oh.
how our day was.
So, who wants to lead? Because
I
Dad's
guess
got
I can.
seven rules or something, and you want to
The
talk
seven
about.
laws of the universe is what it's actually called. Is the best way to put it. It's the best
I'll,
example for people to understand, I guess.
I'll correct him when he's wrong.
All right, so the question I want to ask people is uh are you you? Sorry. Are you you? Basically is the question I'm asking is. Because that is a very important question for people to ask is am I me?
In what context of that? Physically, mentally?
Well, see the problem is humanity's been influenced by society for a long time, thus they lost their identity of who they are. Okay, instead they became an image what society wants them to see. But this can't be helped when we go to schooling or trying to to uh, be part of a group, because you have to be like them if you want to be accepted. If that makes sense, that includes the work environment, schooling, wherever you go, even the type of people you hang out with, even your girlfriend slash wife. You have to be tend to be someone else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's a very important question that we all need to ask is who am I me? Yes, we all know we are we, but are we me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The best way to probably explain that would be like when you're out and you're looking for a partner and you sit down and you ask questions of each partner, they lie. And then after they get married, about 2 or 3 years later, they said, "You're not the same person I met before." Well, that's because they were lying to try to become what they expected them to be. And then once they got to the relationship to a certain point, they became who they really were, and they didn't like each other.
Been there.
Yeah. So instead of trying to follow society, we need to understand what we need to find to understand our pathway, our gifts, and our meaning of life. Because everybody has a different meaning of life that we need to discover for ourselves. And that's what the seven laws are actually about, the seven laws of the universe. Okay.
Are you going to elaborate what the seven laws are then, Matthew?
uh I have ADHD. I don't know if people know this. So my mind is really goes fast, and you know how ADHD people are, especially when they're very hyperactive.
I am apparently possibly ADHD as well, but I'm not overly hyperactive with it.
So my mind is racing so fast, so it's sometimes hard to get my thoughts together, and more thoughts can kick other thoughts out. If that makes sense.
Oh, that bit makes sense.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's because of ADHD and shit like that. So
I just don't have the physical hyperactivity.
all right, the seven laws of the universe is actually the first one is actually life. All right, because we have to understand the meaning of all life because all life is precious. Okay, that is very important. It is the first law of the universe because without life, there's nothing in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
All connected.
Yep, it's all connected. The second is to understand the difference between right and wrong. Okay, that is the second law. Because when you understand what is the right and wrong, you'll understand what balance truly is. And that would be the third law. And that is to understand and utilizing and maintaining the balance of the universe. Okay. Next, law would be the truth, because truth is what's going to help us understand what we need to bring balance to the universe. Okay. Then the fifth one is knowledge, because you need knowledge to find the truth for you to understand, to maintain the balance, to understand the right and wrong, to maintain life itself. Okay. As you can see, they all go down a line, no matter what, they're all connected. The sixth connection is the sixth law is actually connection, that we actually have to connect to everything around us. And this is the one I want to talk about the most, because this is what's going to help us connect to the seventh law, and that is to ourselves. And once we connect to ourselves, all right, then we start to connect everything in the universe. That'll lead to the other laws of the universe. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
All right, so when it comes to connection, and this is the one of the things that I was talking to my dad as well, and one of the things that, I know a lot of people get this feeling too, is like they feel like their guardian angel will be screaming at them and shaking their heads, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, and you get that feeling, like, oh, I know my guardian angel is disappointed in me because of the stuff I do and stuff like that. you know, that feeling is actually true, because we do have what I like to call spiritual advisors instead of guardian angels, spirit guides, energy guides. I call them spiritual advisors because they are actually here to advise us and to become spiritually connected. And that's why this is a very, very important thing to learn, is connection to our spiritual advisors, because they're the ones who are providing us the information. They're the ones that are helping us to connect spiritually. All right.
Like the ones that whisper in our ears. The ones that whisper in our ears, but we don't listen to them.
Yep. It's like the angel and devil, for instance. The devil, stop, girls.
Okay, listeners, he's
the
not
devil,
shouting at you, he's shouting at his dogs.
all right. So the devil actually represents the inner thoughts of a human, actually. And that's where the inner devil, the inner demon is, actually, because that's where we get bad thoughts. While the little angel on our shoulder is actually the spiritual advisor. You can hear that whisper telling you, don't do that.
And when we look at it too, the devil himself, even though the devil doesn't exist, it exists, how would you say, in a fantasy, but the real evil one that would represent the devil would be our own consciousness that's fighting the truth.
Yep.
Well, is that similar to Jung's shadow that you're referring to then?
Mm-hmm.
The darker side of our psyche?
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
It's the negative thoughts we have. All right. That's actually the inner demon.
Yeah, it's like the mind,
the little devil.
the mind fighting the life force energy.
Yep.
Okay, I've got a quick question for you. If there are these spiritual advisors, guardian angels, whatever you want to call them, are they a separate entity to us then? Not separate as in not connected, because
that's
overscared.
what I was getting into, is that they're actually more connected, what you say, to the source than anything else, because they are connected to the source, and that's why they're here to help us. Okay, it could be a loved one from our down in our family lineage, could be the one that be watching over us. And that's the one thing that's very interesting about our spiritual advisors. And depending who are spiritual advisors, they could be influenced by other culture as well. And it does explain how people are accepted into other religions or accepted in their own ways, because their spiritual advisors are actually somewhat influenced by that culture, but they are still connected to the source, though. All right. So that's why sometimes some people might be different from others, but that's because they're being taught different, if that makes sense. Like my brother, he's into Norseman. That's his thing. He's so into Norseman culture that I do believe that's his spiritual advisor, is probably someone from that lineage. But they went home to gather that information, to come back with that information to teach others.
See, what happens too is the idea is that we will see what we want to see. And if we're attached to a certain culture, the energy itself is going to come in that form because that's what we're going to believe. Just like, say, for instance, when the psychics say your father's standing next to you, but in reality, we got an audience here. When we sit there and a psychic will say, "Oh, your dad's standing aside of you." Your dad's not really standing aside of you. What he's seeing is the particles that are attached to you, and it comes in the form of your father or your mother or someone that you respected. So, because you're part of that particular person can be projected, but it's not really there.
Yeah, but we're okay. So what my dad was talking about, yes, this is how the concept of the energies themselves, when they come from the source themselves, do. That is true because energy can take any form it likes. But what I'm talking about is actually spiritual advisors.
Yeah.
Okay, where the ones that are actually attached to us.
Question for you then. Are they with us all the time watching us?
Yeah, they're always watching over us.
Okay, I'm going to bring in my weird Englishness here, but so let's just imagine you you you're pumping uglies with somebody. Is your spirit guide watching you while you're on the job?
They can, and they if they want to or not. But you gotta realize, the concept of when you move on, okay, you remember that you are not bound to the material world anymore, if that makes sense. That means you let go of all of that, of what you are part of this world, if that makes sense, to be one with the energy. It's kind of like the concept of nirvana. You know what I'm saying? To become one with everything. Okay, but in this case, it's not completely like Nirvana because Nirvana is about like breaking apart and becoming everything, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, with the universe. But in this case, the energy itself, like I said, is from the source itself. It's the best way to put it.
So it's not going to judge you for wanking then.
Sometimes when you go places, you happen to be there, and all of a sudden you're shown a little bit more of what happened in that area so you can understand the energy itself. So, say for instance, when I went to England and I went to the Tower of London, I sat there and looked up and I could see poles. And on the poles were heads. And then I said, why am I seeing all these heads? And the individual next to me said, well, they used to cut the heads off the traders and everything and hang them on these poles all the way down on the bridge. So sometimes they will show you things so that you kind of understand a little bit more of what was happening, what the energy was at that particular time, and to basically make sure that you understand the evilness that was there. In order to correct something, you got to see what's created it in the first place. And then it can't harm you. And then you start to understand things a little bit more. So sometimes when people go places, they'll see things and they think that they're going crazy. But in reality, they're getting a history lesson of what happened in that particular place at a particular time. It's just like how many people in the insane asylum see spirits when in reality they're sane because they're actually seeing things. They have that gift, but they throw them into someplace where, oh, they're crazy because they don't want to listen to the message.
Well, it's real for them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's funny because I'm watching Iron Fist, and you ever seen Iron Fist on Marvel on Netflix when it came out and stuff? Where he comes back, this character named Danny Rand comes back. And,
yes, I was trying to remember which one that was.
Yeah, and he gets thrown in the asylum because everybody thinks he's crazy, but it turns out he's actually sane.
Yeah.
And he summons the Iron Fist before he breaks out. Yeah. So, and they're saying, "Oh, you're crazy! You can't do stuff like that." So,
spiritual side.
Yeah. So that's basically what my dad's trying to explain. Yeah.
So do you want to elaborate any more on what you were saying, Matthew, about these?
Yeah. With the question about how energies, if they can be spying on you on the crapper, yes. You ever heard of OBE? You know what OBE is?
Well, over here, it's the Order of the British Empire.
It's outer body experience.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, when someone has an OBE experience, like when they almost died and actually died and came back to life, one of the things that they say is that they let go of emotions, they let go of all attachments. That's literally how the energies work, is that they are not tied to these emotions, they're not tied to attachments. But what they do understand is one thing, and that is the law of the universe.
Well, to be fair, judging people is more of an ego human thing
Exactly.
anyway.
It's an emotion. That's why I'm saying they let go of all that.
Yeah.
They have no ego. They have no pride. They only understand one thing, and that is the balance of the universe.
So they really don't give a shit whether you like strap
Yeah,
yourself to
exactly. They'll
things
plead
and do
with you
all
even
weird
when you're
things.
taking a shower, because they don't see that as bad. They don't see that as negative. You know what I'm saying?
It just is.
Yeah. And that's the one of the things, like I told my dad, is one of the things is that he has 7 spiritual advisors actually that surrounds him and teaching him a lot. Okay, but even they scream at him sometimes. Okay, because it is hard for us to hear them. Okay, for me, I have a broken antenna, so it's information that comes in and out. And I guess I had a crazy experience that I had. I guess is the best way to explain it is like a like dream state, or like a vision type of state for me, but awake. And that was that I was actually explained that we all have spiritual advisors, and I felt literally 2 hands just hot on both shoulders, and they told me I have 2 spiritual advisors that always watches over me and that they're always teaching me. And you are not crazy. Everything that you are learning from us is true. We are really here. We really do exist. It's just like I said, it's just harder for humans to connect with us.
See, one of the things too, like what he said, when we recognize what a spirit is and what an energy is. Now, a spirit, when it comes around you, it's cold because it hasn't become energy yet. So that's how you can tell when a spirit's in your house. All of a sudden, you get that chill, or sometimes your hair kind of raises in the back, but it's cool. Now, when an energy comes in, it's heat. And it depends on what energy happens to come in, will determine how hot you will get. When the universal energies come in, you're boiling. I mean, you're sweating. And you may wake up and almost like the expression, a pool of sweat. That it's so hot when they come in. So sometimes the energies that come in, the temperature determines how well they're connected to the source of the power and where they come from. Like the universal energies, a lot of people will see them as angels because that's what they want to see. But the universal energies, to my interpretation, is those energies that were never born of flesh. They've always been universal energies. So
Yep.
when they come, it comes very, very hot. It's just like when I got my sacred shirt. They showed me the shirt and in a vision. And when I woke up, I was in a pool of sweat. And Matthew was very young at that time, I think about 2 or 3 years old. And I looked at him and he was in a pool of sweat.
That wasn't
His
your
mother
pink
was,
shirt, was it?
and his mother was cool. So the vision was actually for Matthew and myself. And that was it. And that's where I got my sacred shirt from.
As I
But
say, that wasn't that pink shirt, was it?
oh no. I think I showed you a picture of it at one time.
No, I did. I was just joking. Matthew, I saw you sitting there grinning and giggling to yourself. Either you're watching something off screen or you're thinking something. Which was it?
I was just thinking when he's talking about waking up in sweat. I've been waking up in sweat for a past few months now. Holy crap. And I
Yeah,
keep my basement cold, like was it 65 to 68 degrees because I can't sleep in these.
No, I
I have
can't.
to sleep in the cold.
yeah, he has air conditioning on and everything.
Yeah.
And we're freezing upstairs and he's still hot.
and I wake up in sweats still. So
So that means
I do have powerful visions too at
yeah,
the same
yeah,
time.
the universal energies are around you quite a bit.
The only difference is I think I just need to cleanse my body more
Yeah.
from all the toxins and that stuff I put in my body. Like I do smoke cigarettes and I need to quit. I've been trying to quit for a long time. I did at one point before my dad went to the hospital, and that was so nerve-wracking for me because he had to be rushed to the emergency. And I'm like, I didn't have cigarettes for months, but that time I'm like, dude, I need a cigarette. I can't handle this stress.
I'm with you, Matthew. It's one
And
of
the
those
other thing I was going to actually tell people too is the fact that I know how to open a doorway that will allow the spirits to go through so that they can become energies. If they're good, they'll become energy. But if they're a real terrible, bad energy, they won't go there.
They go to the abyss.
Yeah, they go what we call a dark hole, where their energy completely dissipates.
That's what the concept of the abyss is actually.
Yeah,
It's nothing but pitch blackness.
But I don't want to train people how to do those doorways because I don't think they're going to be ready for all the spirits that visit you at night.
Yep.
And they wake you up. I mean, I don't know how many times I wake up and there's somebody looking right at me. And what's so funny about the whole situation is that you wake up, you see them, they act like you don't see them, so they disappear.
Okay, I had a weird thing happen the other night. I think it was last week, right? I've gone to bed. I am not stoned. I'm not drunk or anything like that. I'm not falling asleep. I'm not dreaming or anything. My cat's laid next to me. I've turned the light off, just stroking her. Something slapped the back of my hand, and it can't be the cat because I'm stroking her head. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I was like, turn the light on, and there's nothing there. That was just like really weird, and it really felt like a human slap on the back of my hand.
Yeah.
What the fuck was that then?
Some of them can actually do things to you, like when I get to real deep sleep, all of a sudden somebody will slap my foot, wake me up.
There's two reasons for that, actually.
Go on then, Matthew.
First reason, okay, you gotta realize spirits and energies do have a sense of humor. They actually do. They like to mess with us sometimes, and
I would if I was one.
that's just one of them. The second thing is they're trying to get our attention for a reason. There's a reason why they're getting our attention.
It's like this one movie with what trying to think of it. It was a western, but it was the guy that played trying to think his name now, comedian in Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein?
Yeah, Young Frankenstein.
Gene Wilder?
Yeah, Gene Wilder. Yeah, Gene Wilder. And I always remember the words because that reminds me of the spirits that they hit you and they said, and that was just to get your attention.
Yeah.
But I don't want to show people how to do the doorways because unless they're ready to deal with hundreds and thousands of spirits, because the minute they know that you open that doorway, they're there.
I think that's why they probably.
I keep trying to tell them, I said, I have a Mother Earth Lodge. The doorway is open. Go to the Mother Earth Lodge and go through. But, you know, there's more. When I look at it, they're always talking about the abyss, the dark hole, and it's getting larger. So a lot more people are going there.
Well, the reason why it's growing, the reason why I always believed what the abyss was always about is to break down energy so it can be retributed back into the universe, if that makes sense. That's how I've always visioned the abyss, and why we go to the abyss is for us to be broken down back into the universe.
You know, I was going to ask you, since you know, there's a lot of groups out there, and I've been trying to figure out. I have like about 10 different groups, and they have anywhere from 1.4 million followers to 2.4 thousand followers. And I've been trying to tap into there so I can leave a message and it say, type something. And then when I type, it doesn't come up. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get to them because we're looking at probably a neighborhood of maybe 10,000 people that we could contact that probably is not even aware of the telecast. And that's one of the things that when people watch it, like Linda herself has said, she's going to tell a lot of people to watch it.
Now, all right, so there is a goal. There is a major goal to the human circle of life that I'm aiming for sure, that I do tell my dad, and that is to finally get a community to gather together once and for all so we can get land for this community to, find a place to be. All right, because I would love to find a huge amount of anchors and build upon that anchors for a new community that's willing to be part of the earth again,
They're
to
supposed to
become
be,
Anishinaabe.
yeah, there's supposed to be a prophecy of a gathering of people. And the gathering of the people is actually supposed to happen in Colorado.
Why Colorado?
Too many people are gathering here for no reason and they don't
Yeah.
understand why.
People come here, they're drawn here. I think number one, it's the center of America, I would say, of America's the United States. And I
At
know
least close to the center, I should say.
there are archons that they call. And the archon sometimes can be represented by 7 major volcano sites. And it's getting closer and closer for them to explode. And it seems like in the prophecies, we always told that the Creator is going to shake the earth, hopefully for people to wake up. And shaking of the earth means certain type of disasters.
Well,
You're
you've just
having
had one in
floods.
Texas, haven't you?
Yeah, I was going to say the flood in Texas. Yep.
You have floods, you have volcanoes, you have earthquakes, you have droughts.
Our tornado situation.
You have tsunamis. Everything that you can look at. When you look like right now, places that tornadoes are very rarely seen, is all of a sudden they're all over the place. North Dakota doesn't have that many tornadoes. South Dakota doesn't. And all of a sudden, there's 7 tornadoes in North Dakota, 8 or 9 tornadoes in South Dakota. So tornadoes are starting to hit where they don't never have hit before, especially in the mountains. Mountains are now getting tornadoes. And they said that it couldn't happen in the mountains because of the way the hills, the deepness. You have to have flat land in order for a tornado to be created. But now they're starting to be created in the mountains. So disasters are happening. And there are things in Texas. The camp that got hit, guess what? It was for whites only. So messages are coming left and right, but are we listening? We see, yeah, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I believe that," and all of a sudden, nope, forgot about that.
And
sometimes I think they suffer from dementia because they remember, then all of a sudden they forget.
And that's why I said, what was the very most important thing to ask? Are you you? Am I me?
And I think that's kind of the theme of our broadcast too, is the fact that who am I?
Yep, exactly.
And as the oracle at Delphi said, know thyself.
Yep. And for you to understand yourself, like I said, connect to your spiritual advisor, find ways how you can connect to your spiritual advisor. Now, I will warn people when trying to connect to your spiritual advisors that there are evil forces out there that will try to attack you when you do try to talk to your spiritual advisors, because they are the ones that will try to give you misinformation and lead you down the wrong pathway, where the spiritual advisor is always going to lead you to the right pathway. And this is a challenge for people because we can't see our spiritual advisors. We can't fully communicate with them. So when we hear a voice in our head, it could be an evil force trying to take us away from our path.
It's almost like saying you're supposed to go to this mountain to get something. Your energies say you have to go up there for a connection. If that person says, oh, pay somebody to go get it for you. So you don't have the experience of
Yep.
going up there. And then when you get there, get the full experience of why you're there. So we always look at the easy side of doing things, because number one, the negative energy is trying to say, oh, you don't have to do it that way. You can do it this way.
Okay, we've got 2 minutes left, so we've got to wrap this up, and that's a really important thing to do. So that's how you would tell the difference between a good advisor and a bad advisor. The bad advisor try and get you on the easy route.
Will always be the spiritual advisor that'll tell you spiritual advice.
Yeah.
Where the other is just an evil spirit.
Yeah, you always remember too, you have evil spirits walking the earth, and you have good spirits walking the earth. Basically, the negative spirits didn't ever want to leave the earth. They didn't want to leave the money. They didn't want to leave the greed. They didn't want to leave the power. So they stick around because they don't want to. They feel that some way they can convince somebody else to do it for them, and then they get the experience of it.
Okay, so very quickly then, to sum up, don't interrupt me till I've answered the question. Because the evil spirit could be a trickster, how would you know the difference between the message?
That's why the second law is very important, to understand right and wrong. You gotta feel what is right and what is wrong. That's the most important thing.
Because you know what's right, but all of a sudden wrong's easier.
Yep.
So you just feel it.
You just have to feel it.
I shouldn't do that, but I'm going to.
Yeah. I had problems when I was 16 with this, and it took me a long, long time to figure this out. So there are chances it may take some people some time, but eventually they'll learn to feel what is right and wrong.
Perfect. And we'll close on that note. Thank you, Matthew, for joining us. I think you should join us more often.
All right. That's all I wanted to say today. That was very important. So
yeah, well, you've got to talk about vibrations yet, but that'll be another episode.
Yeah, I still have to, but I thought this was more important because how people are lost nowadays.
Hopefully, viewers and listeners enjoyed that.
I understand too, so being lost.
Thank you, both of you. Thanks for listening to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. If you'd like to ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che a question, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. The link will be in the description. And don't forget, you can download a powerful guided meditation for free at humancircleoflife.com.